the cloud. Uh-oh. All right. Everybody act appropriately. Be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. Okay, 1 second. I want to make sure that I'm presenting like the right thing here. Excellent. And then I'm going to go ahead and share screen. I'm just going to assume everyone can see my screen until someone yells at me otherwise. All right, so we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk through growth board prep. Ideally, this will be a super quick conversation. A lot of this is stuff that you guys have actually already seen coming out of the SIL. We framed it as Inception. And mostly because like the idea was that we were going to try and like hammer down and like get a DNF through, a facilitated DNF through during the SIL. The growth board is kind of the same information, just a check on that. And the goal here is that your product teams are maintaining your autonomy in your problem space, and as part of an enterprise. Realistically, every team within Wavelength is part of an enterprise. You guys are feeding a larger system. And this is an opportunity for your leadership to give you objectives and priorities that they see and feel at their level. And you're presenting them information on where you're at so that they can make informed decisions. And it gives and it will give your leadership the confidence that progress is being made towards those priorities that they identify, and giving you guys an opportunity to present upwards. So growth boards came out of the it's a Silicon Valley technique. A lot of those startups kind of go through I need money. Can you please give me money so that I can continue funding my team? And those venture capitalists are going to come back in and be like, okay, these are the things that I'm saying. I've been doing this for a while, and I have the knowledge, and I'm an unbiased party. These are the priorities that you should be tracking. These are the things that you need to be working towards. So again, growth boards are essential for like maintaining that autonomy so that you can prove to your leadership that you are going in the correct direction. And at the last tier, which is something that we'll end on, is there's typically a decision that's made by that growth board, the board being an entity of those either venture capitalists in the world that this spawned from, but here it's your Wavelength leadership and your wing leadership. So I tried to break this down into like 4 different parts, and all of this just needs to be covered in some way. It doesn't necessarily need to be in this arc and necessarily need to cover each and every single one of these bullet points. The Word doc that I'm going to share with you has a lot of different stuff on there, but realistically, it's just information that is important. So you guys went through your DNF phase, your discovery phase, your framing phase, and that provided you the justification that you needed to move forward, because you're going out there, you're identifying what that problem is, you're doing research on personas, you're trying to come up with different types of solutions, and then you're developing that, and then you're trying to get to that MVP state. And as always, if you're presenting something to somebody, you want to make sure that you're tracking those metrics, or you have identified metrics that actually mean something, and they aren't just vanity metrics that can only go up, and you're measuring them in a meaningful way, as well as identifying those challenges and risks. This is a really good opportunity. Growth board is a great mechanism to identify risks to your leadership, so that you have that avenue to bring it up to them if you aren't already. But as we can go through these real quick. So as I mentioned, discovery, framing, developing, and then metrics and tracking. The important thing here that I want to identify is like, you went out and did a shit ton of research. If you have like on-site photos and stuff like that, I think that can really like bolster your story, because you aren't just like taking it at face value. You are trying to get to the crux of the problem. And through that, you likely identified like multiple personas, not just like a singular individual. And like eventually you get into framing where you've identified just like the who you're helping, that single individual. Stakeholders want to know like why others needs were deprioritized. Identifying who you considered in the beginning here can help you justify that target persona later on, and also can help tell that story of who you plan to support in the future. Um, as I mentioned, DNF is divergent and convergent thinking. You're going wide, trying to figure out, and then you're prioritizing on converging. So through that converging, you're validating your assumptions. And here you can also identify like those key highlights that of key insights that you can highlight. Too many rhyming words in that sentence. Okay. So framing, your problem statement is likely something that came out of this. So that is a succinct way to identify like who you're helping, how you're going to help them, and why you're helping them. And then you guys have all identified your MVP. Harm, you guys are almost there, so that's awesome, and something that you can talk about throughout this presentation. The target persona, as I mentioned, like a little bit ago, is that person that you are like prioritizing the solution for, and then you can go out and start to help those others within that ecosystem. And then here's a good spot that you could put your product roadmap, kind of identifying like what are your next steps, those milestones and timelines, and make sure you're not necessarily make sure, but remember that if you're going to put a date up there, to quote Dale, here is just like, if you put a date, that's a commitment, that's not an estimate. Another big section here, which like you guys live in the software world, so development and deployment. It's taken you guys, like development just doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. There's risks and challenges that come up. And so yeah, I'll send these slides out, Michael, and yes, Jonas, don't take pictures in a skiff unless you have a special skiff phone. There's not a such thing. Okay. Anyway, so I threw myself off the topic here. I think here is a good opportunity to say like, okay, yes, it's taking us a little while, but these are the reasons why. Such as for Swarm, you guys have like a ton of SD elements, software development elements that you have to get through, such as like customer on ID and all of those things. You guys have like trudged through that. It's taking you some time. Here's an opportunity for you to say like, here's all the awesome stuff that we have done to get to where we're at now. Your path to production falls within the same vein of that. This is why we have to choose this, because these technologies don't necessarily work anywhere else, or this is where our users live. A next thing here is user onboarding and communication strategies. A mistake that we had made in the past is that we don't need to onboard users, or we used to say this back when I was I'll just go very junior PM, of just like, yeah, it's going to be intuitive software. They'll get it. It's just like, that's a terrible idea. Like, make sure that you have onboarding strategies. You're getting people up to speed on like how to use your product. Those types of things, just like all encompassing, not just sending things out there into the ether and hoping that they'll use it. And then the last little bits here is identifying that you guys aren't just sending it out into the ether and not following up, making sure that you're garnering that user feedback, like whatever feedback collection mechanisms that you end up using, how you plan to iterate and improve on that product, and whatever release plan and cadence that you end up establishing. As I mentioned, metrics are important. I do mention KPIs here, which are key performance indicators. In other words, it is just the thing that you are measuring. And then we mentioned the roadmap before. You don't necessarily have to reiterate yourself, just making sure that, like, again, all of this information is portrayed. Another thing that I want to call out here is at the very bottom is the identify requests and needs. It's not often that you get to sit in front of wing leadership and tell them how things are going. And again, we will make sure that like the communication and the messaging here is like on point. Like we are telling, we are showing as much as we need to show for them to make decisions and help us out. But this is an opportunity to identify those requests and needs. If I've said this once in the past, I've said it a billion times. If you're going to put it on a slide and you're going to talk to it, you're going to have to deliver it no matter what it is. So make sure you're cautious as to what you're putting on those slides, and make sure that you have a plan to answer whatever you're putting out there. And then lastly here is a growth board comes with a recommendation. My my recommendation here is that you guys establish it yourself. Yes, of course, the persevere, that's going to likely be like the one that you all say with like, yes, we need to get out there. We need to start getting feedback on our product. But sometimes like maybe whatever cadence that this ends up happening at, quarterly, monthly, whatever, there might come a time where like, we need to pivot now. We have addressed all that we can at this AOC, and we need to pivot to this other AOC, recognizing that things are going to slow down in necessarily feature development for a specific user, but trying to develop that enterprise solution. So next steps here, like I said, real quick, so this is last slide. We'll reach out and start scheduling working sessions with you guys likely being Christine and Michael. Anybody else that needs support, I'm in Slack, I'm here to help. But that is basically all that I wanted to go over today. What questions does everybody have?
So I just have a quick question. When is this expected to be briefed? Is this like a week turnaround, a month turnaround? What are we looking at?
I don't see Troy online. This is not going to be like a week turnaround. We are working. It has not yet been scheduled with the wing. So this, or with the group or wing. I think it's going to be the group though. So I would guess longer than 2 weeks. Okay. I have no validation behind that, but don't expect it. Like this doesn't need to be done like by October, like 1st. So I think you should be good to breathe.
Got it. Okay. And then my next question, and again, if you don't have the answer for this one, that's fine. What's the kind of like the time frame that we're looking on to actually brief for? Is it going to be like a 15-minute? Is it going to be like a 45-minute brief? Like what are we looking at?
I think the parameters will come with the scheduling. I'm not 100% sure yet, but like likely if 3 teams are going to be briefing, I would probably hit it around like the 30-minute to 45-minute mark. So I guess TBD, but we'll definitely help you guys with that narrative to make sure that you can get all of the important bits presented up front.
Got it. I appreciate it.
Yep.
This may be a dumb Dane question, but is for a growth board. We're thinking it's more than one slide, right?
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't have like a one slider kind of idea. It's an actual presentation.
Yeah, it's going to be a presentation. You can provide like a narrative for them to take away with, which will likely be on your decision of like, you should choose to allow our team to continue to persevere for these reasons, and these reasons should be succinct. But like no expectation for all of this information to fit into a singular slide. Nice. Any other questions?
We'll be reaching out for scheduling the sync for the growth boards, or is that something that we'll work with through our Sagely coach?
Likely both. I like not putting all of this on Kate, so I'll reach out to Michael, Dane, and Chris, you guys individually, so that we can set up some working sessions just to go through all of this and answer whatever questions you guys have. And then once we have a more short update and time frame around when these growth boards will be presented, we'll definitely plan accordingly. Cool. So I'll PDF these slides, get them to you. Troy and I are working on getting the outline narrative together, as well as wavelength branded slides. So basically all you guys should be doing is just copying and pasting your notes into Google Slides is the idea, and then working on the narrative and messaging around it. Questions, comments, concerns? Nice. I'm going to click stop recording.